So here's the Coleman. Not much has been done to it. I mean, it's got the CVT kit on it right down here, and this one's like the nicer CVT kit with nicer bearings, and I forget the differences. Like the sliding sheave has a couple more like indexing grooves, so it doesn't bind up as much, and it's not like the Amazon cheaper one. But I've done that, and then the old throttle, plastic housing and everything was bad and broke and stuff, so put a new one of those. Then I designed these little 3D printed brackets that just convert it to a single hole bolt that's all tucked up back in there. So a big LED light. I mean, that thing's super bright. Got what I'm going to try to do is the first thing about these things, like you can go so many places with these things, is when you actuate the rear brake, it kind of sticks and it doesn't release till you roll backwards once these brakes start to get worn more. So I just bought off Amazon disc brake and a lever, some pads, whatever. It's like the whole kind of setup to be able to put a disc brake. So I'm going to figure out how to get this thing in here, take off the rear drum, and run a disc brake so this thing can be an animal, because that's the only thing that holds it back now. So what I've figured out here is I have this piece of pipe that is from another project here. Let me measure it. So ID is looks about 4 5/8, and OD is 5-inch. So it's a piece of 5-inch pipe, and it sits right there on basically the drum, so I can weld that on there. That will be no problem. I should be able to weld that on there. So then I'll do that, cut a chunk out to make my distances land the right spot, and then take this, make that into a circle, cut a circle of that, and cap this, and then drill the holes once I have a circle, the mounting holes for this. Try to get it all centered up enough. And I'm gonna have to plasma this center section out probably, just to get that exact spacer, because that's sits inside where it looks like it actually sits right on the bearing. So I could find a chunk of another chunk of like a bushing, but I don't think I'm gonna have another chunk of bushing like this, but I'll look, and if I do, all I need is another chunk of this stuff that's long enough to make up for not having the basically brake drum assembly there. So that's what I'm going to try to do, and then I'll get that all set inside there and try to place the brake caliper. So we'll see what happens. So I got this little pipe flange done. So basically, it's all welded on the inside. And this hole, I mean, I just plasmaed it out and just kind of cleaned it up with the die grinder, so it's pretty oblong. But the holes of this are pretty much centered. I mean, to get them lined up, they're pretty centered in this thing. So hopefully it spins pretty true. So now all I got to do is take this piece and then basically get it prepped and ready to be welded on like that. So I kind of made a mistake here. So this thing used to be this thick, but I mismeasured. I measured without a bushing, so it needed to be this thick. So I ended up just cutting it down and then doubling it up and kind of cleaning it back up. So now I can go and mount it back up. So hopefully all that works. I'm thinking of cutting these spots out so that the rotor here doesn't hit them and be kind of out around or force it. I mean, I could grind these corners down because if anything, I think I could probably just grind these down. And it'd probably do a pretty good job. I probably will do that actually, because then I don't have to go in here with the plasma and cut these little pieces out. So. So here's my run out test. This drum is actually, the outside of it is pretty off because it's a cast piece. It looks like that's welded onto the wheel. And they normally just cast it and then put the inside on a lathe so they spin that true to the wheel. So it doesn't really matter about the outside. But for me, when I'm trying to eyeball it on, it kind of does matter. But the run out really isn't that bad. See if I can hold the camera still here. So I think for a disc, that'll probably be fine because it can move around. So I'm gonna go with that. So I'll get that thing welded on. So I got this thing kind of just welded on a few spots here because I don't want to put too much heat into it. I don't want to warp it, but oh man, that thing's hard to get in there because I'm pretty sure all that's cast. So I got a little hole drilled in there for the drain, but I think they'll do pretty good. Okay guys, we got this thing basically buttoned up, and we're gonna get everything else kind of ready that I need to do. I got this brake line kind of ran through here. I need to zip tie it, but yeah, I ran out of MIG gas at the very end, so I had to just cover pass it and weld it because I had no gas. Ain't got no gas. But yeah, came out pretty good. I'm gonna adjust this throttle linkage because I put that quick turn throttle on it, and the spring's just a little stiff where the throttle's sitting, so I'm gonna try to adjust it and stuff. But I was also gonna show on these CVT clutches. So I have the primary sheave sitting over there on the table, so I pulled it off. This piece comes off too, but this kind of stays like this. Sitting over here, I'll show you. So when these things stop shifting down, basically what you got to do here, I'll show you. So it's got this sliding internal kind of spider that drives off the keyway off the drive shaft, drives this, and this thing has to slide. So I like to make sure this thing is lubed up. But as you can see, it's sat and it's full of stuff and dirt and all kinds of shit. So I have pulled it apart, and I'll have to clean all that. And then here is your centrifugal clutch here. So there's stuff all over in here. So I'm going to brake clean all this stuff out and get this clean so it can engage nicely inside there. It's all just full of shit. So I'll get all that cleaned up and get everything back together, and we'll go take it for a test drive. So I got this thing kind of cleaned up with the wire wheel, and it just is not very smooth. So I'm going to show you guys what I have over here. I think I talked about it in my Jeep update video, but I didn't build it, I guess. I bought vibrating polisher from Harbor Freight, and then bought a bunch of ceramic little beads, and I used it to micro polish the gears in the transfer case of the Blue XJ, and it came out amazing. So I'm going to do this piece in here, and I'm not going to put it in there for too terribly long because I just don't want to wait. I just want to be done with this little project. But I'll put it in there, and then I'll show you guys how it comes out. But just a little bit of time will really help this thing, I'm pretty sure. It's got just, let's see if I'll focus here. It's just got so many machine marks in it, but I'll open this thing up and show you the material in here. So it's all little tiny ceramic beads, all different sizes, to get in all those nooks and crannies. So you can see how big this thing, you can hold some parts in this thing. So I'll put it in there, I'll turn it on, I'll let it run for a while, I'll show you guys the product. So I just got the little parts pulled out of the